All right, we are live. Home of the Hustle, Eddie Martin, Tammy Kling, Drew Reese. We're live here in Dallas, Texas, on site. Normally, obviously I don't do this and fly out here to meet people, but on my little tour of Texas, I managed to bring myself out here. So I'm going to use my tablet to share this thing out so we can get some folks in here before we get started. Make sure we're all on the same page here. If you could do that, we would much appreciate it. Share it, invite. There was a handful of people earlier that wanted to be invited to this thing, but it's very difficult to do that when I'm doing this. So appreciate you guys coming in here. This is Drew. Drew owns a company called Popular Inc. here in Dallas, Texas. You guys know Tammy from what we've been doing here for the last couple of weeks. Show him that shirt.
So, Popular Inc., and he's got a tagline. Tell us about that tagline.
It's because it is a popularity contest, and basically in sales, in anything, you strive to be the best, and sometimes your competitors will hate on you. They will basically call you out sometimes, and in business, it's just people buy from people they like. And so I came up with that tagline, which obviously complemented the company's name, Popular Inc., because it is a popularity contest, and you choose to do business with people you like, and that's the number one thing you should always remember if you're in sales or trying to build a business. So make yourself likable, make yourself relatable, and approachable.
Yeah, and if you do that, you'll build a tribe around your business, and people will literally do business with you wherever you go.
It's all about branding.
It is all about branding. And it's funny, because this social media world, everybody sees branding, and they're like, oh yeah, social media and branding and all this. You don't have social media.
Yeah. That is so important.
I don't. I guess over the last 11 years, I thought it was more important for me to focus on the business and focus on my end goal. I knew exactly where I was going, and all the time I saw my peers spending looking at their phone or diving into conversations or just checking out people's profiles at night, I was working in a barn. So I didn't really see the need for it, and 11 years have gone by. I've been just fine without Facebook. I've heard a lot of cool things about it. Obviously it's empowering. It does things like this, and I'm proud to be a part of this. But for me, it just wasn't a necessity. It wasn't a priority at the time. I told these guys maybe I'll get on someday when I need to start monitoring my kids, but they're only 4 and 1 right now, so I'm okay.
So you talk about in a barn, right? So it started in a barn.
It did. Yep.
So we'll kind of do a fast forward and then back up a little bit. So you run a printing company.
Yes, sir.
That you literally started from scratch, that you didn't know anything about the industry at all.
Correct. Yeah, I just took the bull by the horns, and really this is what was offered to me. People ask me all the time, what were you doing before this? It's been 11 years of success, and they're shocked when I say I was serving tables at P.F. Chang's, and that's where my path was going. And you've got to be open, you've got to have your eyes open, your head on a swivel, and when opportunities present, you've got to know and believe in yourself if this is the one, if this is the opportunity you've been waiting for in a lifetime. And I had a guy confront me about 11 years ago with a business idea that had gone south for him, but maybe a young, aspiring entrepreneur could resurrect such a thing, and I was capable of doing that. Long story short, you can buy the book in hopefully February. 4 years after getting this thing off the ground and really just selling something I knew nothing about, the fake it till you make it type motto. 4 years later, we were profitable, and we were. I actually bought the whole company away with a business partner of mine at the time from the original owner, and we've turned this thing into Popular Inc. And then for the last 7 years, we've rocked it and turned it into one of the top 3 companies in our industry.
It's amazing. So you didn't know anything about the industry, and you were serving tables at P.F. Chang's.
Correct.
So it's not like you were running around sales career and all this stuff.
Right.
So you got in and you just went and started calling on companies.
I did. Again, the guy had an old company that was kind of in shambles. What I did was went up into the attic, and I pulled together a story from the 15 previous years of who were the customers, what kind of products did they print for, went into grocery stores, tried to touch and feel and find similar products, and made a cold call list. So between the list in the attic and the list that I made myself at an Albertsons here locally in McKinney, Texas, I started cold calling like crazy. I mean, asking for purchasing managers, asking for CEOs, just trying to get on the phone. And the first brand I ever landed was owned by Abbott, called EAS Myoplex, which is a huge sport nutrition line we used to take in high school. So I took a lot of pride in landing that account, and after EAS came on board, it gave me the clout to go out to the market and say, hey, I print for EAS, and all of a sudden we landed Nutrisystem, and you guys all know about Nutrisystem.
Yep.
One led to another after another after another, and it's been a fun ride.
So I'm looking at like logos and stuff that you got going on in here. It seems like a lot of network marketing companies do business with you.
Yeah, we do, and mainly because our business model is so unique. In typical competition in this industry, we're competing with 3 to 4 to 6 week lead times, and our lead times are 2 weeks or less. So in the MLM industry, those companies like to move fast. They like to launch new products and get products out with very little notice and not understanding really the hierarchy and what needs to take place. Well, we're able to adapt to that business model, which is pretty much what our life has become in 2017. We want things accessible and we want it now. And a lot of these gray hairs, which I call them, the guys that own all the other printing companies in the country, still are in that 70s, 80s mentality of, well, they'll wait 6 to 8 weeks for their packaging. And I think that's why it's been so easy for us to obtain new customers, for us to grow by word of mouth. I'm the only sales rep, or have been the only sales rep for 11 years until just recently I hired a girl I'm training, but I've sold over $100 million in packaging when I knew nothing about it, because there's that much of a need for a guy that actually is in tune with where the market is going.
Yeah, well, and I think you hit it on the head. I mean, business is changing, right? Times are changing. You got the gray hairs out there thinking the customer needs to be doing business the way that they do business,
right?
And you're thinking, no, I need to do business the way the customer wants me to do business,
right?
Right. So you can get it out in front of them, and because you move fast and nimble and you're quick to pivot and turn, you end up with the business,
right?
There's probably several of you on here that are in the network marketing companies. There's a big MLM community kind of around what we do that you do all the printing for.
Absolutely.
Right.
I mean, anyone from Monovi to Yoli to Jeunesse Global to Advocare, I mean, you name it.
Yeah, Lavelle, Advocare.
Lavelle,
yeah.
Just anyone.
I see some protein
we
powders, Spark,
sport nutrition. So again, our focus at Popular Ink is doing things the right way, doing things better than the other printing companies as far as the safety and regulation standpoint. Our traceability programs are insane. So that's another marketing and sellability, something we can sell above our competition, because a lot of those gray hairs are just your traditional old label companies that print stickers that go on the outside of bottles, trying to do what we do. We really went the extra mile to make sure that we were within compliance, that we're where the FDA is going. So that all the products that are produced out of here are the safest. And if anything goes sideways, we can trace it all the way back to the resins that we buy from DuPont.
Wow.
I love the traceability. Can you tell us just a little bit more about that? Because that sounds very innovative.
Yeah, again, what we do here at this facility is all food grade. It's all basically the sealant layer is touching your product. If you think of a bag of chips, your chips are touching that sealant layer in there, and you're hoping that printed good came from a facility that was clean, that they manufactured things in a responsible manner. Liquids or chemicals weren't getting on that sealant layer, it wasn't touching the ground, yada yada. So all that protocol from the bag of chip, once the consumer grabs it, there's a lot code, there's an expiration date on there. If there's ever a problem with that bag of chips, they can contact the company that made the bag of chips, and they will then go into their database and go back to who did I order that chip bag from, where then they will contact a company like ours and they'll say, I don't know, I can't tell, maybe it came from this order or that order. We can pinpoint it right down to what guy of mine ran the job, what batch of ink was on that package, what lot of material. I mean, all the way back to the point where before that film was ever even blown, what resin it came from DuPont.
Wow.
It was about a $350,000 ERP system we installed to allow us to do that.
So heavy focus on accountability and on the process.
Absolutely.
Right? I noticed a Nick Saban quote over there, so immediately my brain starts thinking about the process. Another thing that I noticed immediately when I got here was you've created a culture.
Correct.
Like there's a very direct and obvious culture that seems like is kind of the heart of the business. Was that something that was super important to you when you started getting this thing going and bringing on people that they felt liked and appreciated and wanted?
Absolutely. I think I told you on a side tour that we went on that appreciation is probably my number one motivator in life. I don't do things for money. I do things to know that I'm appreciated by people. If someone just shows that they appreciate me, that's more than the money they could ever give me. So instilled in our core values is the word grateful. I think that goes hand in hand, and just being grateful for the opportunity I'm given every day. I want our customers to be grateful for us for being here for them. I want our guys to understand that, wow, I'm grateful for our customers giving us orders. It's a reciprocal relationship that's got to go back and forth, back and forth. When building a company, I have a chapter in my book that's going to be coming out that act like you've been here before, and it's really about don't forget where you come from. And I will never forget where I came from. I was, again, serving tables. I was paycheck to paycheck. And so, I won't eat unless these guys are fed, and that's the way it's always been. And I like to just make sure as the company gets bigger and bigger, we don't ever lose those roots of taking care of your people first. Everything else will fall in place.
Yes, it's got to be a win-win. Every relationship throughout the whole process has to be a win-win.
Absolutely.
It's a win-win with your distributors, with your manufacturers. It's a win-win with your clients and with your employees. Right? Everybody's got to win, or else it's not really.
In fact, in our handbook, we're all team members. You have a membership here. You don't have an employment. So in our handbook, we don't mention the word employee. You're not just another number. You have a jersey number. And our hopes are that you retire here, and that your number gets lifted into the rafters of our factory someday because your number is being retired. So we look at it just completely different from the core, all the way from the beginning, your first day here to your last.
I love that. I love that commitment. And all this time we've been working on this book with you, we've noticed this about you, just the differentiator of integrity, honesty, and just telling it like it is, basically. And I just want to speak to the entrepreneurs out there, anybody that wants to build a company or doesn't even know how they're going to start, and just look to Drew for inspiration to just know that he did not know. He'll be the first one to say, I did not know what I was doing before I started. And that's so inspiring because people look at guys like you and think, I could never do this, or they were a trust fund baby, or, oh, they had help along the way, or something like that. And that's not your story at all.
No, I have a chip on my shoulder. I have a fine line I have to walk because my kids are probably going to be looked at as the silver spoon kids, and those are the people that probably motivated the most to get here. My parents worked hard, Air Force, put themselves through college type thing, and we lived a middle class life. But no, I have a fine line I've got to learn how to balance. So I'll be leaning on mentors like Tammy, like several of my other mentors. But how do I make sure my kids understand work ethic, grind, and just what it really takes to be successful?
Right, all of those things. And I've got my kids here today. We were old school, and the reason I brought my kids is because we just know that guys like Drew are going to be the best lessons if they can just absorb your life through reading books, sure, but also by listening to you and watching shows like Home of the Hustle. I mean, I know this show is going to be replayed over and over, but if you guys have any questions, I know Eddie's going to be taking questions, and if you guys have questions for Drew, now's the time. He is not on social media. That's another important lesson. Tell us about why you're not on Facebook.
Just being laser focused. I never thought of it as a necessity. It was an extracurricular activity, and I didn't have time for it. Bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
This is great.
Which is absolutely true. I mean, social media can be a couple things, right? It can be a waste of time, like a complete waste of time that just sucks life out of you. It can be something you leverage for a network, benefit towards business, or it could be something that you completely don't pay attention to in life and stay focused on, like actual business and what's going on. There's more than one way to skin a cat, right? There's more than one way to get the job done.
There's positive ways to use Facebook, and I've seen people catapult their careers in doing using it the right way, but it wasn't needed in my market. So you kind of just look at what you're trying to create, and in my market, it wasn't going to be a tool to obtain more business, or to it wasn't going to help me at night running a press by myself. Yep. So I just needed to focus on those things I needed to do to be successful, and maybe someday, like I said, maybe I'll join.
You never know.
Right now,
no, don't do it. Don't
staying away from no Instagram, no
Stay
Twitter,
away for now.
nothing.
Yeah,
just keep doing what you're doing.
We do have a question from Kyle Hendricks. I don't know if you want to read it. It's from Kyle Hendricks, and he asked it a couple times about Drew's employee handbook.
Oh, okay. So Kyle's a details guy. Okay, so Kyle is like an operations guy. Okay. Super cool dude. He says, how'd you structure your handbook? What were the top things that you had to have in there?
I honestly went to a local restaurant that had a legit handbook, and I asked for the digital copy of it. Hospitality industry, again, P.F. Chang's being my background, and I used all kinds of analogies and morphed. Basically, anywhere you saw the word employee, just delete it and say member. You are a member here. This is the state of Texas, where it's a right to work state, right? But it goes both ways. I choose to work here, so we have memberships here. You're showing up because you like the environment you're working in. You like the task that you're doing day to day. You get gratification out of that. And I can't run a company without you out here. So it just goes both ways. When you looked at everything from top down, replace the word with employee and just call it a membership for what it is. Now, obviously, like a gym, you can cancel someone's membership if they act out of line or don't abide by the policies that you want them to. It really does make them feel a lot more part of the team, like as a true partner, and not as just another number. This guy doesn't care. This guy doesn't get it. He's never done this job. I mean, that's different too. All these guys know that I've done everything out here, from sweeping the floors to running the press to breaking down the press. I think you get a lot of respect from guys that.
Oh yeah, you've done it. You've been in the field. You're not just talking about it. You are about it.
Right.
Real quick, if you guys haven't shared this out, go ahead and share this out. Let me know you shared it. Put a share in the comments so I know that you did, so we can give you some love. You know what I think is really cool, and Tammy kind of gave me a heads up on it before, is you're a realist, right? It's just like the truth, the raw truth. Like,
it's either factual or it's not.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Whereas some people sugarcoat things and they BS and they hype things up. You're like, you look at things at the actual core of what they actually are, and I really, really appreciate that, because my brain kind of works the same way.
Yeah, I don't think before I speak a lot of times, so I kind of let it marinate out there, and I'm like,
well, let's just go. Let's
I wonder
just
if
take
that made
thought.
sense. I wonder if that made sense.
Let's take that thought a little further, because so what you're talking about him being a realist. So you said something during the book process about how we are not all created equal, and all these motivational speakers who stand up in front of 30,000 people and say, "You can do it, you can do it."
Yeah.
How that kind of bugs you. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that's the fight I'm pretty much trying to pick. I'm just a debater, man. If you tell me Michael Jordan was the best basketball player in the world, I'm gonna fight you back, and I know I'm dead wrong, and I will just fight you back, and I will fight you back. So the same in motivational speakers. I know they play a really good, important role in motivating people, in getting people to get more out of themselves, what they would have probably done without them. But if I'm going into an auditorium, which I've been in before, and I've heard them say, you all can do this, and they're really just trying to sell 30,000 books, 30,000 subscriptions, 30,000 t-shirts. My whole side, again, the website I'm going to be launching, I own demotivate.com, and my goal is to demotivate you. I think the more I pound you down, the more I beat you down and just tell you you are not going to become successful, because that's what I feel like people did to me my whole life. There's going to be a small percentage, there's going to be 1 to 2% of people that sit in that room and say, well, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. This guy, that doesn't even bother me. I'm going to shrug that right off. That was me. That was me, and every time someone put me down, every time someone told me I couldn't do it, I needed to hear that, because it didn't bother me. It was like, I know I'm going to be successful, and I'm going to show you. And that's what I'm going to try to bring out. I only want 1 to 2% of those people leaving a room guaranteeing themselves, like, oh, he wasn't talking about me. And I want to save the other 98% of people from cashing in 401ks, reverse mortgaging their houses, all on a whim, all for a dream, because I genuinely do care about people.
Yeah.
And, you need to, there's a saying that I learned recently from a mentor of mine. It took me his passing for me to understand it in full. But all things or anything is worth giving up for the ones you love, right? And if you love your family and you're not a 1%er, don't risk their well-being. Don't risk their future. Don't risk the stability you have for them.
That's good.
Whereas if you're a 1 or 2%er and you're sitting there, you're the 1 or 2%er, then stop wasting time. Get off your butt and go get it done. So anything's worth quitting for the ones you love, but you've got to understand what side of the coin you're on there.
Be practical. It's self-awareness.
Absolutely.
Know who the heck you are, right? I'm with you. Like, everybody can't do it.
No.
Right.
And that's just the reality of it.
Just like everybody can't be Michael Jordan.
I was just going to say, I love basketball, right?
Right.
But
I try every day.
I'm not going to
Around
be the
2
guy,
o'clock.
right?
Yeah.
No, it's not going to happen. Some things are just what they are, and I love the fact that that's how you look at it, because that's the situation that you were in. Because it was the same way for me. Like, oh, whatever you think you're going to do, oh, you can't do that. Oh, you can't do that. Oh, you can't do that. And for that reason, I keep doing whatever I'm doing because I know that I am that.
Right.
But if I wasn't, I know enough about myself to say, all right, no, I'm just going to go work at Walmart and
Be a greeter.
and go get my blue collar job and hang out here and just cash in my 401k in 40 years and hope it works out. But that's a big debate and big argument that goes on, especially you're not in the mix of the social media stuff. It's literally like a battle that goes on with these different personalities. Yeah. One says you can be a billionaire, everybody can do it. And the other one says be practical, sell all your crap online and be happy. You don't have to work for somebody else. And who's right, who's wrong? I think the person who's honest with themselves is the one that's right or wrong.
Absolutely.
Versus whatever the message is that's coming to them.
That's it.
Right? So you need to be able to look in the mirror and say, this is who I am.
And since he's not on social media, show him all the hearts he's getting. So these are all live people. Send him some love. Send him some hearts.
I don't know what hearts mean.
Okay.
Light them up.
So the hearts
My
mean...
wife is probably watching.
Oh, okay. So that's okay. That's okay. The hearts mean just that they love what you're saying. And then the thumbs up. See, look at all the hearts you're getting.
What
And
are the thumbs down?
up. No thumbs down.
wish
You don't
they had
need
a thumbs
thumbs down.
Oh, they don't even have one?
No, they
No,
don't.
but look
It's
at-
too foo-foo. They want
Look
you
at
to
all
be
the
all
hearts
happy.
you're getting.
It's messed up.
So that's messed up. No,
This
see,
is why millennials are entitled.
demotivate. You need a thumbs down.
Yeah.
You'll create that, right? You'll create the thumbs down.
They should be able to tell you, I hate what you're saying right now.
That's right. So, what? Do we have any other questions?
Yeah, I'm going
I
to
bet
scroll
we have
through
a ton
here
of 'em.
and see. Frank Sales says the dopamine hits. That's like all the research they've done. When somebody says they like something, it squirts off dopamine in your brain,
Okay.
and that's how people get addicted to social media.
Oh,
Is a sense of like accomplishment
Makes sense.
or being wanted. Anybody else have any other questions? I'm going to scroll back through here and see if we got some. I thought I seen one.
advice for entrepreneurs.
Yeah, while I'm looking here.
You got anything? If somebody wanted to do what you do, Drew, what would you tell them? Even if because I know how people are thinking out there. I counsel people all the time who say, oh, I wish I could do what you do, or I wish I could do this, or I wish, what do you say to those people that say, I wish?
Stop wishing. You either have to just get in the lane and go, or continue on. I mean, nothing's going to get done. You're not going to make progress sleeping. You're not going to get progress wishing and dreaming about what you have. Now, I listen to a lot of music, and there's an old song, the words say, before I had it, I closed my eyes and imagined. And yeah, that was true for me too. But I mean, it was, when I imagined it, it was so real. I mean, I literally could just reach out and touch it. So I didn't waste any more time. I just got out of bed one morning and I just started grinding. If that meant going sleepless days, sleepless nights, just grind and go
And
after
not
it.
knowing what you were doing. That's the key. You don't always know what that next step
So
is.
I used to say, while my competition was sleeping, that's when I was getting ahead, because I was so far behind the 8 ball. I just worked when I knew they weren't.
Oh, that's
Well, it's like everybody says you got to get in a business that you're passionate about. Like it's got to have purpose to you, and that's great. And I agree. If you have something that you're passionate about and there's purpose and you can build a business into it, fantastic. But that wasn't your story at all.
Another part of the book where, again, don't do what you're passionate about. If you're passionate enough about your vision, if you're passionate enough about your end goal for your life, for your legacy, that's all you need to be passionate about. So if it was being a garbage man and starting a garbage company, I would have done it. All I cared about doing was getting to that utopia, getting to that picture perfect life that I saw for a future wife before I ever even started dating my wife, future kids before I ever even had kids. That's what you need to, obtain. That's what you need to have passion for. I don't care what the vehicle is to get there. Just
Whatever gets you there.
Take the avenue that gets you there.
Yeah.
I want to say one more thing about you that is so inspiring is I just brought my boys into your office, and there's a lot of entrepreneurs that have like this ball in office, and your office is so frugal. I mean, there's furniture from IKEA in there. I mean, it's remarkable to actually see somebody walk the talk and be uber successful, really. I mean, there's nothing at this point in life that you really need, and yet you're still in this little room that is a very frugal office.
It's just an office.
It's well done, by the way.
Yeah.
All right, we got a handful of other questions here. Share this out if you haven't shared it yet, and we appreciate that. Okay, so Brian Sherman says, what was your biggest failure while building your business, and how did you overcome it?
My biggest failure? Well, I used to say I win all the time. And we experienced probably our first loss as a company, not diversifying ourselves fast enough. I don't think as any startup, you can really calculate that kind of thing, but if your client is 100% concentration, that's your first client, that's 100% of your business. Now you got to go get a second, a third, a fourth, and it's all prorated on, okay, how much are they going to do with you per year? And you still may have one customer that's 60% of your business, another that's 20, another that's 15, yada, yada. So getting ahead of that fast enough, because we did experience a setback once where a very large customer, about 33% of our business, kind of pulled the rug out from underneath us. And nothing that we could have controlled, nothing that really the customer could have. There's some politics in business that aren't fair sometimes, and we had that happen to us. It was the most challenging. It was the scariest time. It was a failure in my eyes because I feel like I should have foreseen that. I should have gotten ahead of that a little bit faster. But wow, nothing motivates R&D like a PO. So in that regard, nothing motivates you diversifying your company until the day you wake up and you're like, okay, it's either sink or swim.
Yeah. Yeah, when a big chunk of your business goes away because it relied on one client.
Yep.
I always tell people, like, when I'm meeting them in sales and they want that big whale account.
Yep.
Like, that's great. What happens when the whale goes away? Frank wants to know, who did you follow or read when you were on the come up? Like, was there an author or anything that you got into, or
I've never read a book in my life.
Okay.
I've actually wrote my junior term paper in high school on Dr. Seuss. He's
Sweet.
a children's psychologist, and my English teacher was his father was a children's psychologist, so the only necessity was I had to interview his father, and I had to read 5 Dr. Seuss books and then correlate the psychology behind them. So I've always been a schemer, a sleight of hand type guy. Like, how can I get around this? This is an obstacle in my way. So I've never read a book, but I guess I just watched and aspired to have things in lifestyles that I saw maybe on TV.
But I will make a good point that it's kind of like, you don't have to have all the books in the garage that you're reading. You can have all the books in the garage that you actually wrote. So although he hasn't read a book, he is writing a book all on his own, which is incredible. So I'm just in the process of editing it right now, but he sent me this incredible manuscript that was just bang on. So you're definitely going to want to get that. Oh, and we have to go to the warehouse, so don't go away, because
Yeah, we have to check
we
that
got
out for
to
sure.
take a peek in the warehouse. He rides his hoverboard all around the warehouse.
We want to make sure we stay aware of time.
Yes.
What time do we have?
It's about time to...
We're at 30 right now? Okay. So we'll ask one more question, then we'll go check out the warehouse, and then we'll shut her down. This is an interesting question because you didn't say this, but he's asking this question. This is Cody, okay? And Cody owns a business in Kansas, I believe, okay? Gutters is what I think his business is. So he said, when did you start to over leverage yourself?
I don't know if I fully understand that question, but I think we were just very fortunate. We had to do some strategic things, if you're asking what I think you're asking, in the beginning where we didn't have any operating capital to really start our business. So we learned of a thing that I maybe took a course on in college called factoring. And there's a very, very small percentage of companies that actually become successful and get away from the factoring. But when we would take on purchase orders, you can essentially get funded 80% of that purchase order right up front from these certain factoring companies around any Metroplex area. And so the moment the PO came in, we'd send it to the factoring company. They would give us 80% cash, which allowed us to go buy our raw materials, pay some labor, yada, yada. But that left us 0% error, rate for error. We could not mess up the job. If we did, we couldn't bill it in full. It was essential that we perfected the job, billed it, and then we're able to bill for it in full. When the payment came due from the customer, the check actually went to a PO box, which was owned by the factoring company. They took it, cashed it, took their 80% back, took 2.5% on top of that, and then to give us the rest of the money. It was a very difficult thing to do. And again, if you look up statistics of companies that are able to wean themselves off that bottle, it takes a constant amount of POs, it takes a constant amount of growth for you to be healthy enough to eventually just break that chain. And we became cash cows. We were really just sitting. We never took distributions. Again, we were very frugal, and we saved up hundreds of thousands of dollars in a bank because my business partner and I had never seen money like that. So we were nervous to spend it. And what we ended up doing was every year just pouring that all back into the company. Buy a new press, buy a new laminator, buy a new piece of equipment that we can modify onto the current press. We were obsessed. We were taking $26,000 to $36,000 salaries if we could every year. I mean, we were laser focused. So the over leveraging never became an issue for us. Yeah, we were very fortunate though. I understand that a lot of entrepreneurs are faced with that.
So 2 questions I want to ask. That don't require long answers. How important is sales in a business as an entrepreneur?
Sales cure everything. There's nothing that sales can't fix.
And your answer might be the same to this question. We're going to go check out the warehouse and just go walk around a little bit after this, but what would be the one piece of advice you would want to leave with somebody who is looking to start a business? Maybe they currently are employed somewhere and they're going to jump, or maybe they are in a business right now, they started and struggling and things aren't going well. What would be the one bit of advice? If it was short and sweet and to the point, what would it be?
Just give it everything you got. And when I say that, I mean everything you have. And I don't think, again, that the words don't stress exactly what I'm saying, but to the point where your heart, you can feel it thumping in your brain because you're physically exhausted. I mean, I've pushed my body to the point of no return before, and scared myself, scared my family. You've got to be able to give it everything you've got, no matter what it is. If you're currently in it or if you're thinking about doing it, this is not something that's just going to show up on a silver platter for you. So go get it.
Love that.
Love that.
All right, so we're going to go take a quick little tour. We'll pop that up. You want to grab that? And we'll walk out there.
You can't touch
so you can see kind of what's going on.
You can't really touch the screen, no.
Yeah. Pull the little rubber tab.
Yeah. Me phone?
Yeah.
Make sure it's live. Still live?
Yeah.
Still good?
All right. Get the hoverboard.
Yeah, just kind of walk out. I think it's cool that you roll around on a hoverboard everywhere.
Easier. I got as fast as I can see.
Oh, yeah? So here, real quick. Explain this a little bit. Give them a little shot of this wall.
This is our wall of
This is
appreciation.
really cool.
Wall of appreciation. So a lot of people will say, "Oh, Hormel, is your customer," but Hormel doesn't genuinely care about me. It's the people at those companies that mean something to you. So Barb Craig is the person that means something to me. I mean something to her. She's the one that sends me purchase orders. So you either spend $1 million with us, or maybe a mentor is on here that's giving me $1 million worth of advice. My best friend who just passed away last weekend has done more than that for me. So he was my first customer ever and taught me so many things where I would have probably reacted as a 24-year-old kid to a situation. He taught me how to handle it like a man. And yeah, that's what this is, Wall of Appreciation. We hope to have everyone's name tattooed, just for miles in this facility at some point.
Yeah, when you showed me that, that was the coolest thing ever. So yeah, he's got a pool room in here.
What's up, guys?
What's going on?
Don't mind us. You all right?
Another employee break room.
Everything going all right?
Team member.
Why is that in Spanish? I don't know, for you. I can read Spanish.
So it might be a little loud out here, and we can't go into too much detail and walk around very much because, like we were talking about inside, quality control is huge. So we just wanted to walk out here and kind of point it out. Maybe he could, point to some equipment.
We've got a 70,000 square foot facility right now. To just kind of recap, I started in an 8,000 square foot barn, and we moved in 2012 to a 24,000 square foot facility, and now we've basically tripled that in a couple of years. We do plan on becoming 140,000 square feet the next couple of years, which is what this whole building is actually the size of, so we'll eventually take that whole thing on. We have one of the newest and state-of-the-art presses from Italy. We bought October 2016. We brought in from Milan, And then we brought in several other assets that complement it from either Italy or from Wisconsin, where a lot of this industry kind of thrives. So everything we do here, again, from candy wrappers to candy bar wrappers, chip bags, gel packs for your athletes who take nutritional supplements while they're maybe cycling a 100-mile race. That's what we specialize in here.
Fantastic. Well, hey, I appreciate the time. I appreciate the conversation. A lot of good stuff. I'm sure a lot of people learned a lot of things. And the tour around and just showing us and accepting us in. I love your business, man. I love what you have going on. And I really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. So, appreciate you guys sticking in. Home of the Hustle, Monday through Friday. I replaced Jason today, so tomorrow is going to be the Titan on Tuesdays and Frank on Wednesday. Be sure to tune in. If you have any questions, you want to reach out to me, I'm happy to help facilitate that and get you the information that you need. But I appreciate you guys. Have a good night.